of what both Julian and David McBride had hoped for in their reveal of war crimes. The acknowledgement and accountability, even if it doesn't come from our governments themselves. It is something that would combat the moral injury that David McBride often talks about and spoke of in the event last night. So moral injury is this idea that the trauma doesn't necessarily come from participating in the conflict. The trauma comes from being told something about what your government's doing and finding out that that's not why they're there. All right, it's about being tricked into doing something dishonorable and against what you believed in, and that's the moral injury, and that's what this film is about. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Nicely done. Thank you.
Evening, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to be here. Great music, Wendy. Thanks for the introduction. It was great. So, my name is Benjamin Gilmour, and yes, I travelled to Afghanistan as a filmmaker in 2016 to shoot a feature drama film called Jirga. It was in cinemas around Australia. It was in Toronto. It represented Australia at the Academy Awards in 2019. And was a story about, a fictional story, about an Australian soldier who goes back to Afghanistan because he's plagued by having accidentally killed an unarmed civilian during a raid on a village, and goes back to find the family of the person he killed and apologise to them and face the tribal justice in a tribal court, a Pashtun tribal court known as a Jirga. And so this is the story of this character, and people often ask me, was it based on a real soldier, this story? And in fact it wasn't, but as far as I'm aware, I haven't heard of any cases like this, but since, up to the time the film was conceived, but since then, I've heard that the film has inspired several soldiers to make similar journeys, not necessarily to find the families of civilians they've killed, but to go back and contribute in some way. That was 2016 when I shot that film. Now it was this year, on Anzac Day, 2023, that I found myself once again in Afghanistan, making another documentary. Now this is an Afghanistan that is currently under the leadership of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, a government some people call the Taliban, or used to be known as the Taliban, also known as the Taliban. They don't really refer to themselves as the Taliban anymore because they're running the country. So I was in Afghanistan researching another documentary to do with the current government there. And while I was in Kabul researching this particular documentary and doing some filming, I had a very interesting invitation by a doctor from a province called Uruzgan. Some of you may know that's where Australian forces were based during the war. And this doctor invited me down to Uruzgan, and it wasn't really the focus of my documentary, but I thought this would be very interesting to see Uruzgan now under control of the Taliban, who were our former enemies. So I flew down to Kandahar with this doctor, Dr. Nazar, and together we got a car up from Kandahar to Uruzgan. It's a very arduous journey, about 6 hours on a terrible road, and I have seen the potholes between here and Nimbin. And I can tell you it was a lot worse than that. So you can just picture huge craters in the road, and not all of them were from IEDs. It was just very poorly maintained. And I wondered on the way up there actually if all Australia had ever done in Uruzgan was fix that one road, they may have won the people over. As it turned out, the first place we stopped was a little mosque about 2 hours into the journey, so it was already in the Uruzgan province. And I was introduced as an Australian, and there were a few Talibs around, and they were carrying weapons that used to belong to Australian soldiers. And I was told by these locals that there are enough weapons now left behind by Australians and their allies in Afghanistan after this last conflict to supply their children and their children's children.
Wow.
So it's quite incredible, and I saw a lot of Australian weapons there being held by young mujahideen all across, between in Kandahar and in Oruzgan, in Kabul. At this first stop, at this little mosque, where we stopped for a drink of water, the moment that the small number of locals found out that I was Australian, they came up to me with most incredible and tragic stories. One of the first locals in Oruzgan that I spoke to said that he had personally lost 36 family members to Australian forces. That if he counted his friends among those that he'd lost, it totaled 82. This is one man, the first man I spoke to in Oruzgan. The following week would expose me to the most harrowing stories at every turn of experiences by locals of Australian forces. Mainly an elite group that they described as the bearded devils, who came usually at night in raids in helicopters. We can only assume, based on descriptions, that these soldiers were SAS or commandos. The next day, we visited a small village about 15 minutes out of Tarankot, the capital of the provincial capital of Oruzgan, and sat with locals there. They told stories of being continually harassed by Australian forces, about several raids where their homes were destroyed, where their schools were shot up, where men, women and children were killed in cold blood by people representing our country, people representing you and me. And I found it very difficult to remain composed, and there were many moments where I shed a tear with the local Afghans who told me these stories. I was filming a lot of these accounts, and I sat in a circle of men from a few different villages who came together outside the school building of one village we were in, and they spoke of one particular raid on one night very early on in the war, or at least very early on when Australians had taken over from the Dutch in Oruzgan. And on that one night, they claimed that 56 members of their 3 villages had been killed and 102 injured. That's one night, one raid, in this one little part of Oruzgan, just outside Tarankot. And I got to thinking, if that was just one night, and that was more casualties than we have read about. I mean, we're reading about casualties, I think it's like 34 or 39 civilians that Australians are allegedly killed. But I was hearing accounts of many more casualties than that, just in individual raids. And wherever I went in Oruzgan over those few days, I kept hearing more of these stories, and I found it very difficult to believe. But these were locals who were, genuinely looking me in the eye and telling me their personal accounts of what went on there. We know very little because we don't have anyone on the ground there. Apart from one or two journalists who've been to Oruzgan since I believe I may have been the first filmmaker or writer in Oruzgan since the war finished. I know Andrew Quilty went there in the last year of the war to Oruzgan, but I don't think many people have been there since. So where are our investigators? They're sitting in offices in Sydney. They have their hands tied because the government does not want to deal with the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Our government is too proud to deal with their former enemies because it would mean they may have to recognise them. And so this is a big hurdle I've spoken to the to agents of the Special Investigator with the Australian Federal Police, and they would love to go to Oruzgan to hear the same stories, to take evidence. They're the professionals. I'm a filmmaker. I'm happy to take their accounts on camera. But the investigators themselves, who are qualified to do this work, they're not there. And there are so many stories. We know but a fraction of what really went on there. And so I didn't really come prepared with a speech or anything, but I just wanted to share some of the experiences there. And actually, I had notes. I gave a speech at the Sydney Rose Festival, and I just wanted to read some quotes from locals because, well, this is very interesting. This will come out here. Okay, this one man. They did a lot of operations here around this place. They killed my family, my brothers, my cousins. Yes, I was a Talib, but my family did not deserve such terror. 36 members of my family were killed, including women and children. This doesn't include my friends. If I count my friends, the dead was 82. They were so brutal, the Australians, you cannot believe. I saw all these deaths, these bodies, with my own eyes. They did not care who was coming their way. They just shot and killed. They even hit a wedding party. I saw them kill 2 Taliban and 2 children. They killed our cows and our lambs. When they used to raid a Taliban house, if they couldn't find any mujahideen, they often killed civilians and animals instead, in anger. They just wanted to hurt the Taliban in any way. The Taliban did jihad, but their women and children never did. So why did they kill the women and children? They bombed us so hard we couldn't find our caps. Whoever took cover, the bombers came round and killed them too. I saw a very old man fired upon from a helicopter. Then they set a dog on him. So I asked this man, after that, I asked him, no, I think he must have just seen my reaction. Because I looked plainly shocked. And he said, forgiveness is an order from the Amir. He's referring to the spiritual leader of the Taliban in Kandahar. Forgiveness is an order from the Amir. It is mandatory for us to follow the instructions of our religion. Even our own countrymen who killed us, they now sit beside us. You are our guest, even though you are Australian. Your protection is on us. But we hope and pray that your countrymen don't do these things to us again. That's just a quote from that first chap I met. And on the way out of that particular little village where we first stopped, the doctor I was with, who had treated a lot of casualties in Oruzgan, not just mujahideen but also civilians, he turned to me in the front seat of the car and he says, please tell me, is this your human rights? Are these your human rights? Is this your democracy? Is this your freedom? The point he was trying to make was, I came in there in Afghanistan with a bit of a swagger when I was meeting some of the members of the Taliban, and I had questions for them about human rights, about their human rights abuses, about their restrictions on female rights and education for secondary schoolgirls. And along with telling me that it's a work in progress for them, and we'll see what happens with that, they did make a very good point. Who was I, an Australian, to come in there and ask them questions about their human rights when we had killed their people? And that wasn't lost on me, and I had a first-hand experience of listening to stories that really humbled me.
Very much so.
Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take any questions and share anything.
When will we see the documentary?
When we see which one? The documentary. It's a difficult one. It's a work in progress, and it's one of those documentaries where you go in early because something's happening. I'm being very ambiguous about it. there's some reasons around that, and then you kind of got to wait till it unfolds. So it's a longer type of documentary. So the story has not finished yet, this particular one, and yeah, I can't really say much more about it because it's quite intense and complex. Yeah.
Excuse me, I've got a question. How can they say human rights? Do they not class women as humans?
No, they do. So their response to questions around female education, for example, which is on everyone's mind internationally, is that they're prior to the Taliban coming back into power, the Western-backed government was okay with co-education. Taliban are Hanafi Muslims, so they're more orthodox, and so they believe in segregated education. So the argument that was given to me was they are building schools for women and training female teachers so that they can have segregated education, so you have female teachers for females. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, all right, well, I've heard them, and it may well be a smokescreen for not doing anything, but I think time will tell. I mean, they were very convincing, when I talked to them, but, I think it's one of those things where you really got to see it happening, yeah.
Duncan's got a question.
Well, just on that note, it sort of seems to me like we might look at it and think, oh, that's terrible. But we have girls' schools and boys' schools in Australia. It's just that they're saying this is our cultural beliefs.
Yeah. And
they have a right to their cultural beliefs. We can't just say, well, that's not how we do things in the West, so we don't like it.
Yeah, and we've gone through a whole lot of things in the last 100 years that they haven't gone through yet as well. That's another point. I mean, when you travel outside of the cities in Afghanistan, suddenly you've travelled back in time 2,000 years. I've travelled through villages where nothing seems to have changed in 2,000 years. These people are living as they did in the old books. They've just got their animals, they've got their veggie patch and their fruit trees, and they tell stories, and there's no technology and no electricity.
And it kind of feels to me like in Afghanistan there is kind of a bit of a background. I remember reading John Pilger's Freedom Next Time, where he was talking about how before I forget what before, but that it was quite
in the 70s,
progressive. In the cities, women had a lot of rights, and
I think the stories we hear come from the Afghan people in the diaspora.
Yeah.
They're from people who are from the cities, and they love Western things.
That's right. Whereas you have the people in the country.
Yeah, I think it's important not to forget that 70 to 80% of Afghans live a traditional lifestyle in rural areas. That is the majority. That is the majority. So the outcome of this war and the Taliban coming into power is not great for the urban. For many urban people, I mean, it's great in the sense of the war's finished, so people aren't getting blown up. But the urban people have got many things restricted, their lifestyle restricted. But for rural Afghans, which is the vast majority, they have peace, and their lifestyle's not really changed much since.
And they still have their sovereign culture.
Absolutely, and there's something I do respect about that holding to that, and you hear that. We don't, I heard that over and over again. We don't want your shopping malls. We don't want your big trucks. We don't want your, any of that Western stuff. They're very, very smart. Yeah. And, we will fight to the death in our sandals and turbans to preserve our way of life and our nature. I've heard a lot of talk about environmentalism from some of these very orthodox Islamic, which are dead. They're like, we love these mountains. We are protecting our mountains, our rivers, our orchards from your superhighways.
From your Western assimilation.
from your Western simulations. So, you know.
Just
Yeah.
just on the side, did you run into George Gittos? Is he still there?
I actually got a lot of help from George for the film I shot in 2016. In fact, some of his filmmakers there, I collaborated with them, and yeah, it was very helpful to me. So, you know, a lot of respect for George.
Sure.
So,
Me too.
yeah, great artist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Or thank you so much for listening.
One more thing I like,
Yeah.
like what you were talking about before, Duncan, especially culturally, the idea of being in a different land, and when we as Australian citizens put our name behind tax dollars that pay for actually literally the bullets that sometimes find their way into the skulls of young children, we don't know. That's hard enough to swallow as it is, but like the cultural idea between the Shiite and Sunni, like the differentiation between that in their places, a lot of people out here don't understand anything about that. And then we've got the other layer, which is our media, that describes things in such basic terms, the idea that this is a symbol of bloodthirsty, kind of at each other's throat through, for whatever reason, through thousands of years of feuding. It's like there's not a lot of difference between what we have all experienced in our own culture. Whatever country you all come from, we have our own history of that. And to pick on people is we've got some sort of moral high ground. You would assume.
What's wrong with being drawn and quartered?
Yeah, the moral high ground. I think
Colonial
that's what gets me. You know, that moral high ground we have. You know.
It's another form of racism, I think.
And yeah, I mean, there's knowing a little, just a very basic about Afghan rural culture, tribal culture. You know, in those villages for thousands of years, village men have a weapon or 2 or 5 in the house, and it's their duty under their tribal code of conduct, their Tufton Wali, which is, you know, so integral to who they are, to protect their families and their tribes, to protect their wives and children from invaders. And, you know, before the invention of the gun, it was a sword, you know, and then it was your gun and your 303, and now it's AK-47 since the 80s. So most homes in southern Afghanistan, actually in rural Afghanistan, most homes will have an AK-47 in them. Now, if you send soldiers from another country dressed like, you've seen the pictures of our SAS and commandos, you know, and the descriptions I heard from these villages were that these men were so frightening. You know, they were big, they had beards, they had face paint on, they came at night, they had the night vision goggles, they looked like scary aliens out of a Hollywood movie, and they're rocking into these very traditional old villages, and the men are going to do what they've done for 1,000 years, which is get their gun and protect their families. And sometimes it's cultural, you know, it's like, what are we doing? So, you know, and I feel for the soldiers sent in there too, because, you know, who's a civilian and who's a combatant? The civilians become combatants because that's their cultural, you know, obligation. So
turning civilians into combatants.
It's pretty messed up just going in there in the first place. That's the
colonialism. I say war is communism.
Exactly. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we welcome father of Julian Assange and filmmaker of ABC's Ithaca, John Shipton, who we all know is trying to get Julian out of the shit, as he so plainly put it in his film Ithaca. So now let's give John a really warm Lismore welcome.
Thanks for coming. What to say? Let's look at these 2 guys here. That's Julian. And that's David. In Mozart's Don Giovanni, at the end part, the devil, in the form of the comandante, comes alive. stone statue larger than life size. And the devil takes form, and the stone statue comes alive and points at Don Giovanni and says in the basso profundo, Don Giovanni, as he takes Don Giovanni's soul to hell. And Don Giovanni walks up and says, "Hi, how you doing?" And that's the sort of courage that these two gentlemen have, you know, to take on the Australian government, in Julian's case, to take on many governments, but the largest being the United States. As for Afghanistan, targeting procedures. The WikiLeaks file, the targeting procedures illuminate how they go about selecting a target. Anthropologists advise what is the best targets to select to pacify these people. How can we make them passive to obey our will? There's two answers. One is to destroy the high points of their tribal culture. How do you do that? You bomb funeral cortèges. That is the celebration of the life of a contributing ancestor. You rocket with hellfire rockets. Wedding cortèges, they are not accidents. You can look it up. The differentiation between what we tell each other to protect our consciousness in Australia and like-minded nations, if the burden is too great to think that officers in our armies obey the instructions to destroy wedding parties, or not obey, are involved at a distance to destroy wedding parties and funeral cortèges. It was the same in Pakistan, in Waziristan, which is on the Durand line, a line of contention between Pakistan and Afghanistan, asked by that great peace warrior, a Norwegian historian, his name won't pop up at the moment, but asked the two contending sides, what is the most pertinent difficulty to peace between Afghanistan and Pakistan? And the answer both gave was the Durand line. The Durand line was set up by the English in the division of Pakistan from Afghanistan. It divided the Pashtuns in half. Pashtuns being the largest single tribal group in the world, I think some 45 million. Yeah, that's from memory. Targeting procedures. Don't forget it. Both of the heads of the American Psychological Association, the head and the deputy head, were awarded a contract of $40 million each to enhance torture procedures. They are not nice. They are not us. They look like us. I'm quite seduced by David Icke's understanding that when nobody's looking at them, they turn into reptiles. I'm convinced of that. But how could somebody sit down and say the solution to our problem is the murder of a wedding party or a funeral cortège?
Reptiles.
It's unimaginable. It's just impossible for us to contemplate. The great novelist, upon receiving the Nobel Prize, said, it happened, but it didn't. It was even witty. It all happened. But preserving our sanity, we have to say, oh no, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But it did. And it's best to take upon ourselves the understanding that the previous speaker has just outlined, that it did happen. And having done that, you become like these. You shake hands with the death. You become unflinching in the face of injustice. Where you see injustice, you turn towards it. You don't run. There was an Englishman who said, oh, we hear the sound of gunfire, we walk towards it. Well, in the moral world, and the world of virtue, that's what we do. It doesn't cost much. Just some contemplation and speaking to each other, spreading the word, the logos of understanding. The reason why those blighters contemplate censoring us is clear, because they want to control the logos, the word, what we speak to each other day to day. Our friends gather together, we have a beer or a cup of tea. I'm on the wagon, so a cup of tea's got to go in nowadays. We have a cup of tea together and we chat about stuff. And we bring an understanding forth from each other, and this is a truth. A great truth. It's the only way the truths emerge. There's no other way. And that's why they censor us. That's why they want to control what we converse with each other through social media or whatever. So the idea is simply to just have a chat, just to talk to each other. It's simple, but its beauty is so great. I can say a bit more. So, you know, it's grim, okay, what I'm speaking about. It's grim what happened to Julian, 14 years. You know, he's been banged up in one way or another, in one form or another. It's now moving to 15 years. David, he's looking at 50 years locked up. That's the sentence. Grim. But they brought us something. In the case of Julian Assange, I'll give you just one example, maybe two. Justice and the ending of a war. Okay. In 2006, just outside Baghdad, a group of American soldiers broke into a house and handcuffed the 11 occupants of the house, 5 kids, a mum and dad and a grandfather and grandmother. Then they murdered them, all of them. Contemplating this crime, they thought, well, what we'll do is we'll call in an airstrike. They did. They called in an airstrike, but it was only partially successful. As a consequence of that, a report was written. And that report became a cable from the embassy, the US embassy in Baghdad, the Green Zone, to the Department of State. An official cable. Chelsea Manning released it to Julian. Julian published it in its entirety, in its veracity, not a word out of place. The government and the members of parliament and the people of Iraq, that wrecked country, 26 of its 28 water purification plants destroyed. A mum, like many, I look around and I can see mothers here, a mum can't give their baby daughter a glass of water for fear it would shit itself to death in dysentery. Can you imagine that? Contemplate that you can't give your kids a glass of water because some fuckwit has blown up in their stupid plans all of the, anyway, a wrecked up country. The confidence gone, belittled, ruined, smashed, shock and awe. Well, somehow those people gathered together. Courage. Where from? Who knows? Where does that sort of courage come from? And said to the United States, we're not signing the Status of Forces Agreement. Upon reading that cable, we are not signing the Status of Forces Agreement. You'll have to remove you and your allies. Who were the allies? Us. You and your allies, take your troops out. We're not signing. And so the Americans and their allies removed their troops and began the long process of peace in Afghanistan, still emerging to this day. The people who are reconstructing Iraq, the people who are reconstructing Iraq are guess who? The Chinese, not those that wrecked up the joint. The other example. Now this is trying to say that even though those men suffered and continue to suffer greatly, I'm trying to say that they brought us gifts which draw from us the intensity of loyalty to ensure that they also an honour, loyalty and honour from us to say, no, we treasured these people because they brought us immense gifts to Iraq. The next example, this one is justice. So the Chagos Islanders were all packed up, put on a boat and dumped in Mauritius and their dogs shot. One of the islands in the Chagos group was handed over to the Americans as an Air Force base. The Air Force base houses B-52s. The B-52s can range right through Europe, India and so on from Diego Garcia. The cables described how the process of removing the Chagos Islanders by the United Kingdom happened. They described it in full detail and with amusing things from the colonial and foreign office officers, like these Tarzans and Janes and their dogs. We've taken, that's how they referred to them, the Tarzans and Janes. They dumped them in Mauritius. Anyway, the Chagos Islanders got some lawyers and took their case to the International Court of Justice, and they prevailed. They won their case. They won their case. The United Kingdom objected, and they won again. So there's two illustrations that despite the immensity of the cruelty and malicious and the desire to destroy Julian, drive him mad and lock him up in an institution saying, well, it doesn't matter now, he's nuts. And that's not my analysis, that's the analysis of Professor Nils Melzer, who's the United Nations, at the time, the United Nations Rapporteur on Torture and Unusual Punishment. That's what they want. 14 years of ceaseless malice. if you think I'm exaggerating, the Crown, you must remember yourselves, this is fascinating. Many UK executives, I call politicians and bureaucrats, executives of state, just I bundle them all together for convenience. You must remember hearing that Julian Assange can leave any time he wants. Any time, he just walk out. Well, the truth was that the Crown Prosecuting Service and the Swedish Prosecuting Authority conspired together to keep Julian in the embassy. It's all documented, their documents, to keep Julian in the embassy until he went berserk, being locked up, until the United States had prepared a means. Just adding one more thing to that. I know it's a bit burdensome, but it is the truth. So the CIA got involved. That was all documented in a 5,000-word article by two American journalists and published in Yahoo a couple of years ago. The CIA, under the instructions of what's his name, Mike Pompeo, they discussed kidnapping Julian, and it was quite simple to kidnap him because they had suborned the security that looked after the embassy. They said, they went to the Department of Justice and said, well, we can kidnap him, in their discussions, we can easily kidnap him and bring him to the United States. And the Department of Justice said, well, what will we do with him? We haven't got any charges, we haven't made them up yet. That's the truth. So they fabricated a series of charges and then engineered his removal from the embassy. That's it. Kept him there until they managed to engineer his removal under the charges of espionage. Now, that's his circumstances. I don't want to, and that's great suffering. But there are, in the cable set, I just nominated 2 cables only, just 2. There are 250,000 cables which bring benefit to people all over the world. David McBride was trying to write the rules of engagement to simplify them down. Okay, I think I might be exaggerating, but the current rules of engagement that he was trying to rewrite and simplify were 4 pages. He was trying to make them elegant, and he wanted to look. He wanted to look at the United States rules of engagement in Afghanistan. But they're not allowed. He's a major. The Australians are not allowed to see the rules of engagement of their companions, the United States. Well, what did he do? What would you do? He looked them up on WikiLeaks. Yeah, I'll end with that, and thanks very much.
Thank you, John. That was fantastic. So now it's time for an author and the well-known Afghan Files whistleblower, David McBride, who we all know is trying to not be in the shit, aka jail, for 15 years. And most of all is seeking justice for the Afghanis who were killed in Afghanistan. Now my notes say that 39 Afghanis were killed in Afghanistan, but what we've heard from Benjamin is that those numbers are probably a lot higher. So thank you. It's time for David.
Joe? So David's not quite ready.
Okay.
So Joe, you want to hit the floor? Draw. Would you like to? David's not ready. Are you ready?
Do we introduce you? Oh, okay, we have a poet for everyone.
Hello. I've got 3 pieces that I wanted to share. First one I wrote in 2003 was the first thing that I ever entered in any kind of poetry competition. Won it, got the second prize in the, what was it, UTS Sydney Poetry Comp thing anyway. This piece is called Mate. It's not mate, it's mate. A message to our friends in the US of A. We've fought in a few wars together. We're mates now, okay? Now, mates should be honest and tell each other the truth and usually share stories of embarrassings, conquests and roots. Not easy to say, but I'll try if I may to speak on global matters per se. Now, obviously, the US, it's like Superman was. It's big and strong. It's the ethos, not the people, don't get me wrong. Enormous abusers and asses whilst millions are starving, yet you waste billions overeating and searching for a Martian named Marvin. Pride-fueled aggression, adding profit to fire. It's like the Old West, it's just guns for hire. No cease or forgiveness, next victim's in sights. It's just not right. It's not just, right? Now, from outside of the box, a humble Aussie point of view, you're a little paranoid and scared and slightly self-righteous and abusive, sort of gullible and mean, more oppressed than your victims by corporate and fear regimes. Now, if it is God that you trust, where's your forgiveness and grace? Are you run by the mob? Is your greed a disgrace? I'm sorry for my harshness, I hope you understand. Not all of us want guns in hand. This sad address, though strange is true, sadder still, most of us Aussies are behaving way too much like you. I got a fine in the mail that told me I didn't vote. Oops, it must have slipped my mind. Makes me think, without my vote, am I guilty of these warmongering times? Why should I vote? Seems not to change a thing. If we were voting on issues rather than our current king, I might be interested in what's happening, might be inclined to hand a vote in. While the system's how it is, send me another fine. I'll pay again, smiling all intense before I'll queue to vote in line. I'd like it Australia to show some backbone instead of kissing bums, step out from skirts of puppets and queens, be proud of who we become, stand for peace, do what's right, helping all people however we can. That's how we live safe and free. Who needs wastage on defence? As long as we keep our lips on arse, we'll never know our strength. Time for a shower, time to clean things up and wipe away some old world stench. It's kind of sad I don't get a vote, since my family paid with blood. What they fought for was just and strong. Where's our Geneva Convention gone? Now all these elections, all the fights and all that's left, all the politicians, all of their corporate debts, all the money going down all the drains and all these goings on. How about my right to abstain? What about that song that said, Advance Australia Fair? I love the share market. It's great. I get good returns and excellent rates, keep an eye on my funds, get a wink from a mate, got a nice big portfolio, I'm a bending Bill Gates. I adore our world of fences, obstructive deflections that make freedom augmented, pushing men like cattle into slaughterhouse dimensions, causing tension, apprehension and blissfully ignorant pretension. I love the rush of illegal and honest gambling hit, diminishing lives as markets whip or slide. I get a superiority joyride. I make money with little concern and no care of the harm, even if money for nothing is a killer of calm. Hysteria, like profit, grows. Fun and fear reels off the shows, disguising the calamity within, until we're all naked and left fetal positioning. Only then might we begin to start to not think of self and have a heart and build a future on truth and not common thought and actually prosecute in a functional world court After which we make amends, all nations can and should and will be friends. No need for waste on defence. We can all the world live free from harmful armaments. Speaking truth these days, might as well play in traffic. Seems to be nothing but a hindrance. Most people are so busy playing the game that they don't recognise an authentic item. Really, it's just that they know that they would rip someone else off, so they presume others would do it to them. How tragic a line of thought, spiralling steep and deep. Ouch! How do the rest of us survive amongst shit like this?
I don't know. It seems that David McBride's not quite ready, so we are going to have, how do we say in Welsh his name?
Yeah.
I feel like a poet.
I better say it's Gilmore.
Thank you.
I need to borrow a guitar off somebody. I
Can
didn't
you
bring a
please
guitar.
tell us your
And
name?
has anybody got a capo who's got a broken finger? Anybody got a capo? Capo in the house.
Yeah, depends on a couple of rubber bands.
I want to do it. It's okay.
That was great. Can I get your name?
You got a capo?
No.
Okay. Oh, I'm on the spot.
You can do it, you can do it.
No, that's okay. It's in G minor with a capo.
G minor with a capo. My Welsh name is Gerard.
Would you wait for John?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I felt blessed last night that my beautiful friends Mike and Nadine managed to have my song that I wrote quite a few years ago, out of absolute frustration, talking to friends, family, whoever, about Julian's plight, and I can't remember how many times I'd get a response of, I think I've heard of him, oh yeah, Julian Assange, is that the guy? And people who would be just seriously unaware, as we know, because look how many people are here, and also the fact that the girls at the merch last night said that there were more people in Lismore than Melbourne. True. Rain? Where's Rain?
Yeah.
Oh, is it true? You told me that the turnout. I was a bricklayer for many years and I broke my finger severely and it clicks and I can't do a barchord for anybody who plays guitar. For anybody who plays guitar. I can't play a barchord. So I've learned to improvise. Hang on. So I better not tell too long a story, except that my song, which I'd named Collateral Murder, was born out of absolute frustration at the amount of unawareness there was towards about Julian's plight at the time. That was quite a few years ago. It then morphed into a long song, which was recorded a while ago, and Nadine, Mikey's beautiful partner, put a wonderful film collage to that, which was played last night, and I felt absolutely honoured that that was played. Can everybody hear the guitar?
Yeah.
So I'm a bit of a blues lover, and so I thought, instead of some sort of ultra passionate, fervent sort of song, I just wanted to get the message across of just what put Julian in the position that he's in now. And as John said in his talk, we all know that he basically just told the truth. And so I hope you've got 6 minutes because it's a long Dylan-esque type of thing. And I hope I can do it justice. I'll just... It's called Collateral Murder. Story about a journalist named Julian Assange who told the truth because he found the evidence and he had the proof of collateral murder committed by the US in Iraq, and the images were brutal while the images were stark. There's an Apache chopper that's hovering in the sky over downtown Baghdad. 16 civilians are about to die. Oh, little did they know what was about to go down, because they were just standing around talking like you do when you're downtown. Yes, they were just standing around talking like we do when we're downtown. And the guns started firing, taking them out one by one. You can hear the soldiers laughing and joking as they watch them run. And there were 2 Iraqi journalists reporting for Reuters at the scene. They were both carrying their cameras, not guns, you can easily see it on the screen. But the soldiers said they were carrying weapons and looked like insurgents, but you can't see that on the screen. And the soldiers kept on firing, taking them out one by one. You can see them laughing and joking as they watched them run. A man turned up in a van with 2 small children by his side. He hadn't done anything wrong. He had no reason to run and hide. He was only trying to help the wounded. But the soldiers sound like they're playing a game. One says you shouldn't bring your kids to a war, and the bullets keep falling like rain. One says you shouldn't bring your kids to a war, and they laugh with no conscience or shame. And these are the things they don't want us to see. And these are the images you won't see on TV. Don't keep quiet, or if you dare to speak, then you might end up like that good man named Julian Assange from WikiLeaks, thrown into prison, falsely charged with espionage, while the real war criminals, oh yeah, they're still at large. Real war criminals, oh, they're still at large. It's a bit of a dirge. So if you value your freedom of speech, oh, then you better be like that good man named Julian Assange from WikiLeaks. And stand up for justice and your human rights by exposing the lies and the greed and the crimes they want hidden from our sight. Oh, by exposing the lies and the greed and the crimes they want hidden from our sight. Because these are the things they don't want us to see. the oil and the spoils those civilians didn't ask for. Because those criminals started a war for the oil and the spoils that they should be tried for. Because those criminals started a war. Free Julian. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Welsh, don't tempt me.
6 minutes.
That's why we're tempting.
Will someone else going to come up, or is David in the wings?
He's ready to go.
Oh, I'm ready to go, don't worry. I said don't tempt me. My daughter and I play music together if you want to hear another one. Actually, a very relevant song, I think, for tonight is a song I wrote 15 years ago. My beautiful daughter Rosie here.
Hello, everyone. We can have a share.
Yeah. We actually play music together now. I feel blessed for that. Playing music with my beautiful daughter. And I wrote a song called Love Vibration 15 years ago, and it was probably born out of the angst of seeing a world that hasn't got enough love in it. And it goes like this. Every guitarist has got a tune up.
Make a better world for you and me. Spread a little kindness, leave the past behind us. Let love set us free. Set us free. It's not that Someone else's turn. Anyone else's turn? Thank you so much for lending me your maiden.
Stick for the love!
Turn to the rescue. I've got a broken finger. I can't do a basketball. Bricklaying.
Yeah, I'm doing that at the moment.
Oh, come on.
Oh, it's just general construction.
Yeah, you come on.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Lots of people think
So we are in love. What to do in love, 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 love. When you breathe in. You gotta feel it in you, so you can give it. Oh, love, love, you are. Beautiful life. Ooh, this is beautiful. Breathe in. That just popped out. If anyone's recorded it, can you send it to me? I might teach myself how to play it. See it.
Next. This fella. Is it you?
I'd have to grab a lefty.
A lefty, or you're a lefty?
I'll grab a left.
Wow. Do you want another one?
Hey, you dynamic duo over there, Rosie.
The dynamic duo. That's a good name for a man.
That was you guys should play again.
We play
So where's this fellow?
What colour?
No, we got
The fellow that we're waiting for.
That guy.
Yeah.
Get this fellow. That's still down in that room. This is all the fun. Everyone's going to have to repeat. All the speeches.
You take me high up off the end of civilization. Oh well, you came like a sometimes you've just got to dance it. Sometimes you've just got to move. Sometimes you just got to feel it all the way through. Oh, baby, where's that left-handed? Oh, there's a left-handed man. What do we call you? What was your name?
Jonah.
Jane.
Jonah. The guy in the whale.
Jonah.
Jonah.
The guy in the whale. No, you wish you got out.
Oh, yeah. think.
And I didn't think I got the lines right, but the more I was looking at photos and I see the picture of the
Hello, I'll try it.
too. Oh my gosh.
Waiting for the light, I got my trusty knife. Words are her disguise, and I don't see her arrive. Morning in the mud, thorn bells play with God. For me, I am an alien in a craft of bones and blood. So I'm still waiting to see who paid the orchestra. I bet they look just like me when I was 15. Who could I think's playing all those lovely tunes? I tap my foot and whistle, but still don't have a clue. To me life's a castle perched atop a hill. Someone has me captured, living by their rules. So I'm still waiting to see who paid the orchestra. I bet they look just like me when I was feeling young. The years have made me wiser that we exist right now. Everything that's extant is within, not without. And on a quiet evening, when I used to listen for her, I know it's me who's singing. I am the universe.
A bit of an announcement. There's an RBT on the way out of town on Bangalore Road, just after Trinity, headed towards Byron. Okay?
Thank you for everyone's patience. I'm just going to go for a quick walk and find. I'm going to go find David McBride. So I'll be back. Just continue mingling and come up with some artistic collaborations and your next projects and new songs, alright? Buy some shirts. Also, actually, there's a mailing list there to sign up for Truth Tellers and Whistlebowers to get some very infrequent updates on campaigns coming up. There is a festival and a protest in Canberra in November. And that's about it for now. Just enjoy yourselves, and we'll be back on hopefully pretty soon. Yeah, so David's just making a film right now, and it's a bit late today, so that's why we're a little bit behind. Thank you.
Coming to speak?
Yeah. We just have to. I'm gonna go knock some heads together. Yep.
what it is. Still the lit skates wait on your time. Honey, honey, I got time to know you. You're taking lessons from intelligence. You're still credulous to kindness. Thought by your smile. In the city, love don't seem to last. Just another, just the one you want. Low with anybody, thinks it's moments. So let's
David, you're on the mic, alright? Yep, you are here in your capacity as a whistleblower and an author, because it's about art, alright? So tell us about the book, tell us about art, tell us about what you've been doing.
Okay.
Wait. David has arrived. Just wait for everyone to catch up.
Just adjust this.
Love ya. David has arrived.
No, I don't need a breath. That's right. I can do it. It's my penance. Hello, gang. This lady is a fan because when I was like feeling very guilty about being late, she was like, no, it's Northern New South Wales time. There's such thing as late. And I was like, yeah, I love you. I totally love you. Keep talking. Are you guys going? I was going to say a little special thank you for coming in, and I'm sorry that I took so long.
Oh, they wanted to see you, but they're really tired.
Oh, okay. Well, just before we go, thank you for turning up.
Thanks, David.
And we can do something
And all the best.
together.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get a selfie. Why don't we get a photo?
Oh, let's do that.
No one goes home empty-handed.
Oh, you will?
So what's the club? Is it the local AFL club?
Little Athletic.
Little Athletic.
Okay, let's
Unless
move
it's
over
sprinter.
that way. I'd like to be.
Is that better?
Ready? Okay, say something cool, kids. Go. Bananas.
Bananas! And what's are you sprinters or are you middle distance?
Okay, can you go over there? Turn the lights on.
Actually, Helene is the star of your movie. So everyone, hello, Helene, Really Constance Joe, and David McBride.
There we go. You're in the middle. Sorry, it's not. So it was my fault. I went to the rainforest. I had a walk.
And Natasha and the Thriller. Natasha is Minefield acting too. No
Talk and, you know, I have to there's always a good what do you have? Running the whole country style. I mean, it's obviously great.
Really enjoyed your music.
Oh, did I?
I run a monthly music night that's happening this Wednesday at 1 o'clock, just at Lismore City Borough. You get a free drink if you perform. Thank you, everyone. Perform a few songs and we'll get you lots of drinks.
Thank you so much.
Just while we're waiting for David McBride, please find the email box over there.
Thank you so much for coming along. Your support is there, so we'll get
Two rounds. Oh, good. Sorry.
Lovely to see you.
Okay,
You have the opportunity to do something like I've come to there's a lot of things like you know, Are we on? The crowd's here. Hello. Welcome. John Shipton. I just woke up. John Shipton. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. You all probably know who I am, hopefully. You haven't just wandered in. And I am so sorry to keep everybody waiting. It's very bad of me. I got a bit carried away, running away from school today for the first time. And but now I'm back, and I'm trying to make it up to you. I'll give you a good performance. I mean, most of you would have been here last night, you know, and you know, I don't know what else there is much to say for this fantastic portrait. I'm just so grateful, as I always say, you can't go wrong with thanking everybody who turn in day out to support me, support Julian, support the truth in Australia. It's not actually that, well, you know, it's not that easy. But it is such a noble cause. If I can win my case, we can really take it to Julian to win his case. We can really, that's just why, in some ways, it's very exciting to say, my case could be like a domino thing. If they failed to put me in jail, because I gave out documents knowing, because I revealed the truth, and because it can't be a crime to put someone in jail for revealing the truth about the government, if they fail on that, they'd have to fail with Julian's case. And it would have to, you would logically have to conclude that some things the government must do are illegal. And the government, and if that's proven, what else is going to happen?
They've got to go to jail.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a sort of zero-sum game, and I think they worked that one out to begin with, to say if you put someone on trial for treason or whatever, and you fail to convict them because they say, well, actually, I saw all these crimes, and actually the people trying to put you on trial need to go to jail. And I think it took them a while to work that one out. But they are kindly, that's the sort of flip side, because it's a bit of a death match, because they realise that, and they're not necessarily going to go down without a fight. So we don't really know what's going to happen. Look at that incredible Yeah, so while I always like to put a brave face on it, there's no point being down about it. It's now 30 days, 1 month before I face trial. Then I will be in Canberra, but it'll be 3 weeks or whatever. But it's not impossible that I won't come out of that courtroom or I'll go straight to jail. And, you know, I mean, I know we always try to be optimistic about it, but I know that there are certain things about the government I know, and they won't go down without a fight.
Yep.
And they won't go down without trying to.
They can embarrass.
Yeah, you don't want to be embarrassed, you know, and they will. It's possible they will do something fairly nefarious, and so. Again, I just really want to thank you. This could be the last 30 days. It helps me to actually see it that way, because it means that you really suck the most out of life. You really try and enjoy. It could be the last time you watch a movie with your kids. It could be the last time that you have non-alcoholic beer in Lismore. And you've got to, you've got to make the most of it. I mean, you still have a laugh or whatever, but and the same way that soldiers in war would have fun. But the reality is, we don't know that it's all going to. I still think we will eventually win, because I think sacrifices will be recognised and there'll be some sort of appeal or something, and we will eventually win. I'm not in any way disheartened, but sort of prison is a very real possibility. And so I'm so grateful. This makes this night a very poignant and emotional. This is one of the last nights. This is one of the last acts. Every night from now on, it was going to go pretty fast. I would cut the nights with my kids, with my ex-wife. They're numbered now. A birthday party. Always think back 1 month. It's not very long. That's what happened last month. It's gone in the blink of an eye. I've got one more of them to come, and so I'm so grateful to you. What a long-winded way to say I'm so grateful. You're part of my life now. You're part of my family. All you supporters, hardcore supporters who turn out day in, day out to do all the things. Rain, Yvonne, and everybody, McLones, everybody who's been, doing so much for me. You are part of my family, and that's a fact, which is a wonderful thing. Particularly Lismore, because it's what a reception we had last night tonight. I mean,
Thank you.
It was quite rocking.
It's called love more.
It was.
It's called unity. Truth and unity.
It was more. It's more. The only disappointment I have is I don't have little David's play.
You can't blow your own whistle.
It's past his bedtime, and he has.
You can blow this one.
I've got a new one.
But the handle's broken.
So the truth is really fragile.
Oh.
I think we've lost the handle of truth.
When you blow in there.
I saw her standing last night after the movie, and she didn't look like she was going home. She was going to work all night on this extravaganza. Look at it, it's half blonde, half woman. Summoning the forces of hell. Robin Hood, isn't that cool? That's actually got quite a nice voice.
And when you fill it with water, that's the noise you get tipping it that way. And you tip it back that way.
Play the tree now.
He's on his phone reading the truth.
He's shocked. That's quite very clever. Thank you so much. Annie, what a legend. So many legends here. So many legends, so many beautiful people. And Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm so grateful to you. Yeah, it's been a long journey, and I was remarking today, for those of you, some of you readers, a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and it's about how there's no such thing as an overnight success, and even someone like Mozart, he had a family looking after him, and he was playing the violin when he was 3 or whatever, and so and doing it nothing but for 10 years or whatever. So everyone really has 10 years. You don't really achieve anything unless you've done about 10,000 hours, basically 10 years of work. But I realised last month, it's been 10 years since September 2013, when I started saying enough is enough. We've become, the Afghan war has become a bullshit advertising game, like a sort of Enron, with, covering up war crimes. Everything Julian was saying, that we are making heroes who aren't heroes, villains who aren't villains. Our allies in the war are corrupt pedophiles, drug dealers, and we are fighting against them. A sort of like the Viet Cong, sort of like an amateur revolutionary force who are fighting for their own country in the same way we would fight for our country if an invading force came. It was almost exactly, it's 10 years and 1 month. So as I said to Eddie, it means that when I face the trial, I'm now an expert at whatever it is. I'm an expert at being an agitator. I've done my 10,000 hours, so I'm ready. I'm going to magically, suddenly start to answer. But I guess it's certainly true. I certainly do feel, apart from the fact the government are going to play pretty dirty like they did deal with Julian, I do feel quite confident. I do feel I can speak my truth. I've got the support of you, it has really helped me, all the rallies that I've done, is to hone my truth, and the more times I've made speeches, the more times I've done interviews, it helps you. You tell your own story enough, and actually it becomes clear in your own mind. The book, that has helped a lot. Because my father had this too. If you've got enough people, and I imagine this would be the case with Julian, if you've got enough people that really hate you and try to bring you down or whatever, some of it sticks even with you, and you begin to doubt yourself a little bit and whatever. And so telling your own story is probably some sort of indigenous analogy for this. Telling your own story over and over again actually helps remind you who you are.
Exactly.
And that's quite good, because it does. The haters do. It takes a toll. And I saw that with my father, and he, we were door knocking in Coogee once, and we came across an old lady. We introduced ourselves, and she said, "I know exactly who you are. I used to work in Crown Street Hospital, and you took the formula off the shelf." And he started crying, a lot. I'd never seen so much emotion in him. It's because, and I could see that despite his bravado over all the years, he'd begun to doubt himself, and meeting someone from the past who said, "I remember it happened." It was just like, oh, thank God. And so you are all like that person. You stop me doubting myself. You're here, you support me, you buy T-shirts. There was a little girl. It meant the world to me, that little girl. She was at the game tonight, and I think, and it just, that reminds me who I am. That gives me strength. It enables me to retell my story, and that's one of the things you miss when you're in the Defence Force, when you're an army officer. You get respect. Undeservedly sometimes, but you just naturally get it because you're a soldier for your country. And when you become a whistleblower, you lose that. You're kind of a nothing. But you people here have given me that kind of feeling, as if I was back in the army. You are my army, you are who I represent, And I feel that same vibe that you might walking around in a uniform, that you protect that you make me feel good because you know, you get me, you know what I stand for. When you see me, you're sort of like, yeah, he's the guy that's fighting for us. And when I see you smile at me and shake my hand, I think these are the people who are really grateful for what I'm doing, and these are the people that I'm fighting for. So that's, you know.
The Australian Army ultimately will be eternally grateful for what you've done for them. I believe that, truly.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that, and I'm glad you say it, because again, I begin to doubt myself, but I love hearing that, because I don't feel I've ever been a traitor. I feel I've stood up for what is right, and to try to restore, even from the army point of view, restore
systematic morality and values. Within all systems, we need to be challenging them wherever we are, in any structure. This is the time now. You've done it, and it's so clear. We all have to do it, and then because we all have this power, but we all have to put ourselves on the line and say it's not okay. These power dynamics are not okay, and these human rights violation. I work in resi. It's the same. These structural systems, these power over systems. We need to say it's enough.
You coming out to me says that we all are part of a big story.
Yeah,
and
no,
you're playing this, and your part is now, and what you are doing is incredibly commendable, and this is what you're meant to be doing right now, and I thank you for it.
Thank you. That means the world to me.
It's due diligence. You're doing due diligence. Thank you for that.
That's what I like to say.
Exactly.
I didn't do anything. I did my job.
Stand up for what it says on the packet.
Yeah, exactly. I did your job, and you often
human doing
what
right
someone
for
said,
everybody else.
and you often hear stories like you said. I work for such and such. We saw a gambling New South Wales, and it's terrible. Where I worked, someone I know works. Their husband works in the hospital, and people are dying. It's been covered up. There were so many little defence forces out there, where and if you speak up, you get trashed, you get gaslit, and you get destroyed or whatever.
But we won't. If
But
we
you
all
gotta
do
keep
it.
Anyway, I'm hopeful. And that's why it's exciting. I don't want to, it's a team effort. I don't want you to take some credit. And no one is more. I've been to boarding school. No one is more set up for this than me. But I really can't do it. I could not have done it without you. I really would. I was close to suicide 5 years ago. If my wife had stopped me seeing the children, she's a beautiful person, and my ex-wife. I don't know if I would have made it. But you are like that. You can't be successful doing what I'm doing without people like you, without you guys saying, yeah, you're right. And like James saying that the Defence Force will thank you, because I like hearing that, because you do doubt yourself. And so it is very much a tribe, a team effort. But I also, apart from the fact that it is all of us working together, I would like to say we do have the ability to really achieve something quite good, in that we can take this to everywhere, to every department, to every truth, to say Assange can't be guilty, the truth matters, people need to stand up, and that's why I always try to put a brave face on it, to show that if you do stand up and you do sort of punch the bully in the nose, that you win, you don't lose, you win.
Yes.
We need to make it that people want to be on our side.
That has to become culture.
Rather than us be the loser, the downtrodden loser. We want people to join and say, yeah. You got a question? Would you put your hand up? Very good.
I just wanted to say, in your, just with that fear, having the fear of punching the bully in the face, you are that perfect example, in your extreme case, leading by example for the rest of us, that it's not so safe, I guess, to stand up and say, hey, I can see what's going on, and I'm going to speak about it. but it's about overriding that fear, and your example of that in your extreme case is incredible.
Yeah, and again, thank you. And I love hearing that. I have to say back at you, it really I don't wake up happy all the time and whatever. And seeing people like you coming out last night, I've had so many people help me, and I just love it. So again, it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy in the sense that I want to fight for what's right in Australia, and the support of the fact that you people exist, and the support that I'm getting and the love and everything, it makes us, if this country has this much love and good people in it, it's a fantastic country which is worth fighting for, and it makes it circular. It makes it circular, which is great. And we can, take that further, take it everywhere, and it will be something that you'll be so proud of, and is to come to be part of that revolution of truth, the revolution of good. And it's a team effort, and we all do it together, and fucking, it'll be so exciting. It'll be so exciting. And again, all I can do is keep thanking you, because I've been very busy, and I've written my book. You all know that. You all follow my story, but I have been pushed. I have been pushed. I don't always have time to thank everybody. I need to try to redress that tonight, to say every single one of you has turned out for me, bought a t-shirt, painted a painting, made a whistle. I'm not forgotten. I'm not forgotten. And I'm sorry if in my exhausted state that I don't get to thank everybody as much. But I can assure you I have been pushed. And there are times when I wasn't sure I was going to make it. But so thank you. Thank you. All I can say is I can't thank you enough, but I won't let you down as well. I intend to go on fighting, and I don't intend to go down fighting. I mean, I intend to win.
Thank you.
You got a question?
Yeah, I'm asking it on behalf of a friend who had to leave.
Okay.
He's an old man, he had to go to bed.
Yeah. Okay, that's
right. That is, how has your perceptions and attitudes around war changed, or the need for army? How have your perceptions changed since before your journey to now?
Yeah, look, it has. I mean, I hate to say it, it hits me quite hard. And I grew up on the Second World War, shadow of the Second World War, where, we went ashore in Normandy and fought the Nazis, and it was some sort of kind
glorification.
Yeah, and it wasn't like so much. There are certain times where war may be the only solution, but increasingly, that's or maybe, but it's hard to work out. But increasingly, the wars we have fought recently, it hasn't worked. It hasn't made anything any better. I mean, Vietnam was a disaster. Iraq was a disaster. Normally, they're fought, on some sort of premise of false information, and the military-industrial complex, whatever, they're making money out of it. That's one of the terrible things. The Halliburtons don't think that they lost the war in Afghanistan.
Noam Chomsky for years talked of the man.
Yeah, I think he's right. I mean, so I have had a real change of heart. I mean, he was around when I was starting law school 40 years ago, whatever, and at the time I would have dismissed him as an extremist crank, but now it is undoubtedly everything he says is totally right.
It's been a revelation.
Are they the same players behind all the war?
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know. Probably, yeah. Possibly. It's not really worth going back too much. We can deal with what we have now, but certainly the war with China, Ukraine.
But what about what's happening in Israel now?
Yeah, I'd say that's that's another situation which is being talked up and by bad elements.
Establishment forces.
Yeah, elements who are making money and you know, stuff out of it, and it's nothing like the way it's been represented.
It's been like
in the media.
a testing ground for
But
US
it's
weapons.
it's too late.
I've got something for you, Dave.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
I know we can wrap up soon. It's not a question, it's a statement. It's like, if you actually do end up going to prison long term for what you've done for us, remember this night, remember nights like this, remember gatherings like this.
I will.
And we're always in the right place.
I remember it, I think even more fondly than I already do now. I think I will. Because I'm sort of, my mentality is I kind of live, you know, forward. But then when I get a chance to look back, I'm very sentimental. And I do think I will look back, you know, with tears in my eyes about this fantastic night. I mean, the things you've done, I mean, you know, all of these shirts. And there's incredible love, you know, for me and incredible work for me. And I do really appreciate that. People like yourself, it's not easy to express. Yeah, I can't imagine I'd look back on it and anything, but it would be quite emotional. So, yeah, thank you for reminding that. It's a big deal. This is a big night of my life. So thanks to you.
Is there any idea that they're going to send you? Are you going to Long Bay? Are you going to Grafton?
No, it's a good question. When I was in, when I first started out, and I was going to represent myself, and I had a legal aid law eventually, and I had, we were waiting for our bail, and there's this guy with tats all over his face, and he said, what do you know, he said, what's your cover story going to be, buddy? And I said, well, I'm whistleblower, I'm fighting the government, I can't see that anyone's going to mess with me in jail. And he was like, no. He said, they're going to think you're a government snitch. And he said, I go into protected custody, not because I'm a pedophile, but because I'm a white supremacist. And he said, you know, you got to keep your cell clean because it's some people's homes. And he said, I started to scare me. And he said, I see what happens to the pedophiles. He said, because the screws just open the doors, and then people come in at night and bash them, and their eyes are hanging out of their head. And he said, and I was turning my stomach a bit, and I thought this guy could be from ASIO. He was just trying to. At the time, I was like, put me in jail, see if I can. I think he was doing me a favour, but yeah, he gave me like a travel guide of all the prisons because he said I'd been in every prison, and he said in fact he hadn't committed this crime, but he was going to go to jail for his son because his son committed the crime. And his son had a clean record, so he was just going to go and do a few more years. And yeah, he said Grafton's pretty. He said Goulburn was the worst. He said they take a dead person out of Goulburn every week, but it's all covered up. He said, Always all right or whatever, but he said, because the offence was committed in Canberra, we go to Canberra, or as Eddie tells me, it's the Alexander. He was a reformist. It's the weirdest name for a prison because he was like a reformist from 200 years ago or something, which is kind of bizarre. But apparently that is the softest prison. But the downside is there's no like really soft open prison farm or something in Canberra. There's just the Alexander McConaughey Centre. So but the problem if I gambled on something, like if I was in New South Wales, while there might be some sort of prison farm, they also might send you to Goulburn Supermax and say he's a national security risk. He knows origami. And we need to put him in some sort of hard place. But yeah, hopefully you're going to come and visit me in the Alexander McConaughey Centre. Put your hand up on the glass or whatever it is you do. Yeah, so that's fine. So I don't know. But yeah, it'll be the Canberra prison. Who knows and how it's going to be from there. I like to, as long as you got support and your family is safe, it's probably going to be all right, and that the government don't really completely smear you. I think that would be hard, and I take my hat up to Julian. It would be hard. It would be very hard for him to be smeared by it and not be able to do anything about it. That would be very, very hard.
The government can't touch it.
Well, maybe they can, but I mean, maybe they. I'm worried that someone's going to shift me or something like that, or even if I get involved in some sort of prison fight, you know.
Have you got a solution on how to get Julian back here? Because I reference Napoleon got his own island, he got stuck somewhere, he was respected even after he'd killed or tried to kill half of Europe. So how can we get Julian back to Australia as an Australian citizen? What's your solution?
Well, I mean, I've got to win my own case, but I think that's not impossible. I mean, it's it's like a glacier moving, but the zeitgeist seems to be very much, that's what's going to happen, you know. If it's a dilemma, because he doesn't want to have to plead guilty, I assume anyway, I can't speak for him, but I assume that he doesn't want to plead guilty. Because that's what happened with David Hicks or whatever, that he was convicted of something, and then, of course, I suspect that would happen with Julian. If they did ever convict him, they would have achieved what they wanted to achieve, and then they would. I think he actually, well, John, I don't want to talk about details of the case, I don't know for sure, but John can confirm those kind of things, but if he did get convicted, I think he'd be sent back to Australia and just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, you couldn't do any more than what you're already doing. And again, you're up there on the stage last night, you know, you probably think you could do more, but again, from the cards, well, I can't speak for Julian on this. I mean, I just want to thank you. You guys work, you give blood, you work very, very hard on this. You've all got lives to live and you just never stop. And that is quite incredible. And it's a long war, it's not over yet, but if we keep on going the way we're going, we're going to win this. And then we'll just think about it, it's going to be so sweet. It's going to be so sweet. There's nothing like having a truly despicable enemy that you don't have to feel. I mean, you say war is bad and you don't want, there are some people that you don't want to, you know, maybe that's right, killing people, but certainly metaphorically killing the George Bushes and the Dick Cheneys and the Tony Blairs of the world. Yeah, exactly. That should rightly give you an enormous amount of satisfaction. Mike Pompeo as metaphorical head on a stake. I mean, because he will be so ashamed. That is good. That's something, you know, I haven't lost that streak in me. I want to beat them. And I think we can. Yes, it's a long war, but God, it'll be good when we win. It'll be really good when we win.
Right. Speaking of despicable, can you explain a bit about the fact that you and your legal team aren't allowed to see the evidence and they will only be a judge, and how the fuck that works?
Yeah. They got through saying, oh, well, someone could be super ninja here to blow up, you know, everybody, and all these kind of that I think the judge can't even see the evidence in some cases, and it's a disgrace that they've got away with that, because while the idea was, oh, we're going to protect you from these Osama bin Laden characters, they're just using them on people like Bernard Cleary and me, and it's an absolute disgrace. And again, the public don't know that, and that's in some ways why
he was a CIA agent, Tim Olsen.
Yeah, very possibly. But if I get convicted in some ways, it'll shine a light on those kind of things, especially if it's particularly bad and we don't get to see the evidence. Like it backfired for the last time when they wouldn't let me call any witnesses, and they had 22 or something. They actually took a bit, it's so stupid, they took a dive into public support after people saw that. And in some ways, if they overextend themselves and they do that and they take away my ability to question their evidence, it will backfire for them. A bit like that secret trial they had with that guy, Witness J, a friend of mine. They got to put him in jail, no one knew. But when people found out, it took a few years. People were horrified, even judges, and were saying, really, what have we come to? And they're that stupid, they will overextend themselves. Like any bully, they will go too far and it will blow up in their face. But yeah, the country's in a bad way. And the one thing about my case, it might help illustrate that. I mean, Julian's case does the same thing, the fact that it's clearly so wrong, and the government, even they've said that they wanted to end it, and nothing is happening. I mean, that shows.
I mean, it's just so blatantly obvious that you and Julian are really nice guys, and these laws are for terrorists.
Yeah, and we are owned by the US, and the US is a benign, a malevolent actor in the world, and they're controlling us. And that's just the fact, and we will hopefully. We have the chance anyway. The good news is, the flip side of that, we have the chance to set that straight, unlike better than the last 50 years. And so, isn't it great to be part of something which could be absolutely revolutionary and something to be really happy about? There might be time for some food and drink and dancing. Let's do some rebel dancing.
Can I just say one thing before you go? I think we should all get together and nominate this man for the Victoria Cross for bravery. Seriously, because what he has done is unbelievably brave,
Who do we write to?
And let's do that. Let's
Who do we write to?
talk right to a good question. Don't write to me. I can't read. I'm half fucking blind. But no, write to someone. Your local MP, your local sergeant in the police, or some guy that you've never met before. Just keep writing. But this guy should get the VC, man. Really. Because that is courage.
Who's the real criminal? Who do we write to?
Fucking courage.
Probably your MP. And then we leak the list.
So just really quickly, so we've gathered here tonight to do what Julian Assange has so famously urged the world's humans to do, and that is educate yourselves and act. And from David's words, if not me, who, and if not now, when? Like, we all have jobs, we're all in, well, not all of us, but we're all in areas where we've seen things happen, sometimes we've let it slide, sometimes we've stood up and started to feel what it's like to be ostracized for telling the truth, alright? Like, maybe we've seen sexual harassment in the workplace, we've spoken out, we've been crushed for things like that. That happens everywhere, and stuff like this sets an example for what we should do, and also braces you for what might happen, alright? But if we've got each other, we can stand together against these forces that are oppressing us. Now, I'd just like to really thank Yvonne and Rain and Truth Not Law for just organising this. It's absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much. Truth Not Law contact sheet. I've put my name on it. You're going to get very infrequent emails that'll just keep you updated on things coming up. There's going to be a festival for whistleblowers and WikiLeaks in Canberra on November the 12th, and a protest for the trial of David McBride on the 13th of November. So the events continue. Now, if wars can be peddled by propaganda, then surely peace can be created by counter-propaganda. Look at the art we have here tonight. That is a freaking phenomenal painting. It's just so amazing. With things like that, they do not stand a chance. How can they beat stuff like that? What is on the walls here tonight and what we've heard from our musicians. They don't stand a chance. Alright, so now I hand the baton over to everyone here and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Should we draw the raffle?
drawing a raffle. Better do it.
Ah, good work there.